Hey, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at Surah Naziat.
Those angels stripping out souls.
Yes, chapter 79 of the Quran,
A Meccan surah.
revealed in Mecca before the Prophet Muhammad migrated to Medina. And it really focuses on the Day of Judgment and uses the story of Pharaoh as this really powerful warning.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting how, we're going to see that this surah isn't just talking about the afterlife. It also kind of speaks volumes about how we should be living our lives now.
Right, it makes you really think about your actions and the consequences that come after.
Absolutely. So how about we just jump right into it?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so the Surah starts off very strong right off the bat with this intense imagery by those angels stripping out evil souls harshly and those pulling out good souls gently.
Yeah.
I mean, just those first two verses
Yeah, just read it.
sends chills down your spine.
It's meant to grab your attention. And the Arabic words that are used here really emphasize the contrast between the destinies of the souls, karj, for the harsh pulling, and nashita, for the gentle. It's almost as if you can feel the struggle and the violence associated with the evil souls versus the ease and peace with the good souls.
Yeah, you can really practically hear the difference in those words.
Totally.
Then it goes on to describe angels gliding through the heavens, swiftly taking the lead vigorously and conducting affairs obediently. It's like we're getting a glimpse into this hierarchy of angels all working together so seamlessly.
Exactly. And it really reinforces the Islamic belief of angels as God's messengers carrying out his will with absolute obedience.
Wow.
It really sets this tone of a divinely ordained system, a grand plan unfolding.
Good.
Which brings us to verses 6 and 7,
Mm-hmm.
talking about this quaking blast that will be followed by another. I
Yeah.
think it's safe to say we're talking about the Day of Judgment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And this concept plays a central role in the Islamic belief.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And these verses describe it in a way that really emphasizes its suddenness and overwhelming power. The way it mentions the quaking blast and then another one right after, it creates this sense of inevitability, like
Yeah.
something huge and unstoppable is about to shake the foundation of existence.
Okay, so imagine you're standing there on the Day of Judgment and you see all of this happening.
Yeah.
How do you think the disbelievers, those who doubted the truth, would react?
Well, verses 8 and 9 describe their hearts trembling in horror and their eyes downcast.
Wow, that's quite a shift from their earlier attitude.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because just a few verses before,
Yeah.
in verses 10, 12, they're mocking the idea of resurrection. Will we really be restored to our former state even after we have been reduced to decayed bones?
Yeah.
They just can't wrap their heads around it.
It's like they think they know better than something far greater than themselves.
Exactly.
It's like that saying, doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will.
That's such a powerful way to put it. And their arrogance is met with a swift and undeniable reality in verses 13 and 14. But indeed, it will take only one mighty blast, and at once they will be above ground. It completely shatters their skepticism.
It's a reality check on a cosmic scale.
Literally.
Speaking of powerful examples, that's where the story of Moses and Pharaoh comes in.
Yes.
Okay.
Verses 15 to 26 recount this epic narrative, a reminder that even the mightiest of kings are subject to divine judgment.
I remember learning about Moses and Pharaoh back in Sunday school.
Of course.
Can you give us like a quick recap for those who might not be familiar with the story?
Well, the story goes that God commanded Moses to deliver his message to Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, who had enslaved the Israelites. But Pharaoh, blinded by his pride and power, refused to believe and challenged Moses. God then sent a series of plagues to demonstrate his power, but Pharaoh remained stubborn. So eventually, God parted the Red Sea for Moses and the Israelites to escape. But when Pharaoh and his army pursued them, the sea closed back and drowning them.
It's a story that's been told and retold for centuries.
For sure.
But what's the specific focus in these verses?
The focus here is on Pharaoh's arrogance. His blatant declaration in verse 24, "I am your Lord, the Most High," is his complete rejection of God's authority that ultimately leads to his downfall.
It's interesting because even in today's world, we see this play out on a smaller scale.
Right.
You see people in a position of power forgetting that true leadership is about service and not dominance.
For sure.
And the consequence for Pharaoh. Verse 25 states that Allah overtook him, making him an example in this life and the next. So not only was his reign brought to an end, but his legacy serves as a warning for generations to come.
Absolutely.
It really drives home the point that power, especially when it's misused, is ultimately fleeting. You can have all the wealth and influence in the world, but it really means nothing if you don't use it for good.
Yeah, it's a timeless lesson. But what strikes me is how the Surah then kind of shifts gears, moving from this historical account to a breathtaking reflection on the natural world. Verses 27 to 33 are just incredible.
Yeah.
The way they describe the creation of the sky and the earth.
It's like this wave of awe washing over you as you read those verses.
Right.
It starts with this thought-provoking question, which is harder to create,
Right.
you or the sky?
Right?
It really makes you stop in your tracks.
It does. It challenges our human perspective, reminding us that while we might think we're complex beings, we're actually tiny specks in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Compared to the vastness and intricacy of the cosmos, our problems and worries can seem so insignificant.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then it goes on to paint these vivid pictures. The sky being raised high and formed flawlessly, the night and day being brought forth, the earth being spread out water, and pastures springing forth, mountains set firm.
The imagery is so powerful, so tangible, even though it's describing cosmic events. And it's not just about the sheer size and scale of creation, but also the functionality, the way everything is interconnected and serves a purpose.
Right. It even says all is a means of sustenance for you and your animals. It's like this intricate ecosystem, this web of life that's been designed to support us. But then just when you're feeling this sense of wonder, there's this sharp contrast. Verse 34 hits you with, but when the supreme disaster comes to pass, talk about a mood shift. What exactly is this supreme disaster?
It's a powerful phrase that's open to interpretation. Some scholars believe it refers specifically to the Day of Judgment itself, while others see it as encompassing all the calamities and trials that will precede it. Either way, it creates this sense of looming threat, this ultimate reckoning that hangs over everything.
So it's like this reminder that even amidst all this beauty and abundance, there's this sense of accountability of consequences for our actions.
Exactly. And verses 35-39 describe what happens to those who, as it says, transgressed and preferred the fleeting life of this world. It paints a vivid picture of hellfire, emphasizing the eternal consequences of choosing worldly desires over righteousness. The hellfire will certainly be their home, it states, leaving no room for ambiguity.
It's definitely a stark warning. But then it contrasts this with the fate of those who were in awe of standing before their Lord and restrain themselves from evil desires. Verses 40-42 describe paradise as their home. It's like we're being presented with a clear choice, a path that leads to torment versus one that leads to bliss.
It speaks to this fundamental concept in Islam and in many other faiths as well of free will and its consequences. We have the power to choose our path, but our choices have ripple effects that extend far beyond this life.
It's a powerful reminder that our actions matter not just for ourselves, but for the world around us. And it makes me think about how we often get caught up in the day-to-day, forgetting about the bigger picture, the eternal perspective.
It's so easy to lose sight of that, isn't it? That's why these reminders are so important. And it's interesting how this Surah then addresses a question that I'm sure many people have pondered throughout history. When is all of this going to happen?
When is this supreme disaster, this day of judgment, actually going to occur?
Right. Verses 43-46 deal with this very human curiosity about the timing of the hour, the day of judgment. They ask you, O prophet, regarding the hour, when will it be? But the response is clear. That knowledge rests with your Lord alone.
So basically, don't waste your time trying to figure it out. Focus on what you can control, your own actions and intentions.
Exactly. Trying to pinpoint the exact time of the hour is futile. It's something beyond our comprehension, and ultimately it's not our business to know. Our responsibility is to live righteously aware of the inevitable accountability that awaits us.
And that final verse, verse 46, is so poignant. It compares the perceived length of life on the day of judgment to one evening or its morning. It's like saying all the time we spend worrying, striving, chasing things, it'll feel like the blink of an eye in the grand scheme of things. Kind of makes you reevaluate your priorities, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a powerful reminder of the fleeting nature of this worldly existence. And it sets the stage for the profound question the surah leaves us with, a question we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we've made it to the end of our journey through this incredible surah, exploring these powerful themes of judgment, consequence, and the fleeting nature of time. It's a lot to take in.
It really is. And it all leads back to this really profound question. If our entire lives, with all their complexities and experiences, will feel like a mere fleeting moment on the day of judgment, how does that change our perspective on things right now?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. If everything we strive for, everything we worry about, will feel like the blink of an eye in the grand scheme of things, how should we be living our lives today?
It's a question that forces us to really confront our priorities, our values, and our understanding of what truly matters. If this life is a prelude to an eternal existence, then our actions here take on a whole new level of significance.
Right. It's like we're being asked to zoom out to see our lives from a cosmic perspective.
Yeah.
And from that vantage point, the things that might seem so important in our day-to-day lives can suddenly seem quite small.
Absolutely. And it makes you realize that true fulfillment, true happiness, it can't be found in chasing fleeting pleasures or accumulating worldly possessions. It's about aligning ourselves with the higher purpose, living with intention, and striving for goodness in all that we do.
It's a powerful message of hope and empowerment. It's not about living in fear of judgment, but rather living in awareness of our own potential, our capacity for growth and transformation.
Exactly. Surah Naziat isn't meant to scare us, but to awaken us to a deeper reality. It uses vivid imagery and powerful storytelling to remind us that we have a choice in how we shape our destinies, that our actions have consequences that extend far beyond our limited perception.
So if we could distill all of this into a key takeaway for our listeners, what would it be? What's the one thing we want them to walk away with from this deep dive?
I think it's the importance of conscious living. Every choice we make, every action we take matters. It's about recognizing the power we have to shape our own destinies, to strive for goodness, to leave a positive impact on the world around us.
Living with intention, knowing that even the smallest acts of kindness or moments of reflection can have ripple effects that extend far beyond our limited perception. And maybe, just maybe, those ripples will continue to expand even after our time in this world is done.
It's a beautiful thought. And it speaks to the interconnectedness of all things, the idea that our actions, no matter how small, can contribute to a greater good.
Well, this has been an incredible journey exploring the depths of Surah An-Naziat, thought-provoking, insightful, and honestly a little bit life-changing.
It's always a privilege to delve into these profound texts and to, discover the timeless wisdom they hold.
Thank you, as always, for sharing your expertise and guiding us through this deep dive. And to you, our listener, thank you for joining us on this journey. May this exploration inspire you to reflect on your own path and strive for a life filled with meaning and purpose. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep seeking truth.